So thanks everyone again for joining us. There were at least twice as much as this who's online right now who have registered. So maybe they'll continue to join us as we are going ahead. As you know, this is about, we're using the Babaylan Mandala as a reference point to discuss its symbols and what I call the Babaylan Mandala a message from the ancestors. I'm going to put that up on the screen in just a few seconds. So finding it. There we go. And I'll fill the window. Okay, I'm going to share my screen.
Perla, you turned off your camera.
I did on purpose because I make funny expressions. I make funny expressions and I talk, and I don't want that on the camera. All right, I hope you all can see it. Can you see the mandala on the screen now? Just say yes in the chat. And so because you're just listening in, and maybe Maribel, you've also called in, you probably remember it by your inner eye. So I can describe what I'll be talking about for those of you who are on the phone. So to get started, I think what I'd like to do is I'd like everybody to just get really present in your seat. Let's practice some mindfulness and be present. So get settle in your seat and feel your weight on your chair or on the ground or on the bed or on the sofa, and just begin to be aware of your breathing. Your inhalation passing through your nostrils, how the air cools down the membranes in the back of your throat and passes down into your lungs. Become aware of the air on your skin. The rise and fall of your chest and your belly. Keep your thoughts to your breath for the moment. Begin to let the thoughts of the day fall away. The outer world is now outside of this space. Begin to let your inhalations and your exhalations become even. And consciously slow down your breath. And think of this call, although it's a phone call or a video chat, begin to think of it as a safe space and a sacred space where we can talk about wisdom, esoteric meanings, symbols, and get in touch with our ancestors and our descendants, future generations. Now, if you're still looking at the screen, just keep your focus on the tree at the center. And the tree is white within gold. I initially interpreted the message of the golden mandala as your inner gold. Although the colonizers may have taken away the physical gold of the Philippines during colonization and took the gold and hoisted them on the galleons and sent them to the King and Queen of Spain. And although mining companies today still take the gold and mine it from our land, we as people still have gold within us that shines. And the mandala is a message to become aware of it and to reclaim it. The mandala, as many of you already might know, has Babaylan symbols in them. And the Babaylan symbols are the ancient writing script that existed in the Philippines before the coming of the Spanish colonizers. Interestingly enough, there was a group in the Philippines in the 90s that my friend Anubaldo told me about. She sent books to me. They were called the Filipino Spirituality Community, and they were writing books on Pakikipagkapwa, which means, directly translated, it's by Psikolohiyong Pilipino or Filipino psychology. It's translated as shared identity. And I was always enamored with that word, but I think it was this mandala that began to tell me that it's more than that, that it's a sacred connection with all that is. The reason why it's called Babaylan Mandala goes back to the book that Rick just mentioned, and that is the book by Lenny, the anthology, Babaylan, Filipinos and the Call of the Indigenous. And she published that in 2010. In 2009, she asked me to make a cover for the book. We had collaborated. We've been collaborating since around 1998, when she contributed an essay to newfilipina.com. I had begun publishing a website for Filipino Woman in 1998 because I became a web designer, and there were no websites online for Filipino women except for mail order bride sites and porn sites. So as a web designer and as a Filipina, I decided to start a website for Filipino women. And at that time, in around 1995, I started getting on the internet, and maybe Letitia was part of it. It was called the Flip Serve. It was a discussion group online for Filipino netizens. And at that time, that was the old name for people who were on the internet, because not a lot of people were on the internet. And Lenny, I think, was part of that, and I was part of it, and that was how we got to know Filipinos from around the world, and they might have had websites at that time. And we would just discuss different things and try to help each other. And Eileen, that's how I met Eileen Tapios. Eileen Tapios had published a book. It was the Babaylan Anthology of Literature Writers, which she co-edited with another author. I think it was Cabo. Let me look it up really quick. By Eileen Tapios. Nick Carbo. And they published that in 2000. Yeah, they published that in 2000. And I met Eileen Tabios in 1998 through the Flip Serve. One moment, I'm going to let the pets out of my bedroom. They want to come and go. Hi, kitty. Alrighty. So I met her, and she had published this book, the Babaylan Anthology of Filipina and Filipina American writers. Maybe I can get that up on the screen. There. That's by Eileen Tabios and Nick Carbo. And so I found that book fascinating because a friend of mine in 1996, Anne Ubaldo, told me about the Babaylan and that she was a priestess in the Philippines and a leader of Philippine indigenous villages or pre-Hispanic villages, mostly in the Visayas. And I found that very exciting because I had never heard about her when I was growing up in the Philippines between ages 11 to 23. So I was born here in the United States and I went to the Philippines when I was 11. So I purchased the book, and it was funny because I heard about another book. Because I started this website for Philippine Women, all these writers, Filipino writers, started to contact me, and they were telling me about their books. They wanted me to share their books, and I was happy to. And also, I was asking for contributions for newfilipina.com from Filipino writers from around the world, and also Filipinos who could contribute. So it wasn't really popular at the time in the early 90s. But I was able to get a lot of people to contribute because of the Flip Serve group. Later on, Lenny contributed an essay which became the introduction of her book, Coming Full Circle. And then in around 2000, I think that was 1998, around 2000, she published this book. So 1998, she'd contributed the essay, and in the year 2000, she published this book. I got to read it, and when I was reading it, I emailed her and I told her I think we should start a discussion group about decolonization, because if we have a discussion group online, you get a more interactive experience. After we started that Pagbabalik Loob discussion group in around 2000, 2001, 2 years later we started the Babaylan Yahoo Group's discussion group, and Letitia was part of that. We began to talk about the Babaylan. Because we were in the diaspora, we connected with Filipinas back home, who one was a young woman from the city, and her name was Bing Bing. And she had been a social worker who went to the villages in northern Luzon, in the mountains, on the mountain province. And as a social worker and as a singer, she was visiting these villages where there were Catalonan, which is the Luzon Tagalog name or the Ilocano name for Babaylan, or a female priestess leader of a village. They began to teach her their epic songs. And so therefore she was initiated as Babaylan, or a Catalonan in their village. And I was consulting her or emailing with her about Babaylan and what we could learn from them. later on, Lenny published another book, and she asked me to make a book cover for her. Let's see if I can find that book cover. It's orange. Here it is. So let's see if I can get it to come up. And I created that book cover for her. The illustrations that were in this book came from the ISIS Women's Organization in Manila, and I incorporated the symbol of the Babaylan on the cover. I don't think we can really see her very well, but that Babaylan image came from ISIS, and we incorporated it on the cover. And when I created this one for her, I included Babaylan also. So she dedicated this book to the Babaylan from all the Pagbabalik discussions and the Babaylan discussions that we were having all those years. This was published in 2005. So when she was getting ready to publish her book on decolonization, the next book on decolonization and re-indigenization, that is when she contacted me and asked me if I'd do another book cover for her. I don't know why I can't find it. Where did that book go? Oh yeah. I was showing it manually to everybody. All right. So she asked me to do the cover of her book, and she asked me to contribute an essay, but I couldn't at the time. I was what's going on. Okay, whoever, thank you for putting. Okay, thanks, Letitia. All right. Let's get that book up. Everyone, if you could put yourself on mute. I'm trying to get this image up. All right. Okay. But she did mention something that came from babaylan.com. I had published in the year 2000 babaylan.com, and I had put prose poetry there and art. So if you ever get a chance, you can visit it, but I'll pull up some art and share it. That art is about the warrior, the healer, the teacher, and the visionary. And I discuss those roles on the website and on at FON 2005, which was a conference for Filipino women leaders in the year 2005. And I was the chair, and I based the theme of the conference on the Babaylan, on these 5 roles. The 5th role that we don't see here is priestess. And the priestess role is there. I'll share that here. Yeah. I wish I could share this screen. That is the words that go with the priestess role. So if you ever get a chance, you can visit babaylan.com. So this work is what influenced the creation of the mandala that I created for Lenny's book. I'm going to talk about now the symbolism. One of the first things that I knew that I wanted in the mandala was the symbols of the 4 elements and light, because those represented the warrior spirit, fire, the teacher spirit, earth, the healer spirit, water, and the air spirit, visionary or seer. The light represents the priestess, and that is in the outermost circle. So if you look in the circles, the concentric circles, you see symbolism for the 4 elements, and on the outermost circle, you see stars and galaxies. The next thing that I knew I wanted the mandala to have was a tree of life, because I had been so fascinated by trees, and at the time I was painting a canvas and I was painting a tree, and I knew I wanted this to have a tree. The tree is called the Babaylan tree of life. It is called the Babaylan tree of life because the word Babaylan and its Babaylan has a few deep meanings that I learned because of the books I was reading about Filipino indigenous spirituality. One of the things that came out of it was the word Bahala. And another thing that came out of this was I was being taught by Anubaldo and Bing Bing about the deeper meanings of the Babaylan. The Filipino spiritual community had identified in the Babaylan of Bahala, the syllables or Babaylan were Ba, which is, if you look at the roots of the tree, it looks like an upside down heart, but very round. And the 2 curves are at the bottom. And that represents the Babaylan or the syllable of Ba. There's also Ha, which is represented by the curved shapes of the tree branches from left to right. And lastly is La, which is the small symbol inside the roots of the tree, inside the Ba symbol. Now, the interpretation by the people of the spiritual in Filipino indigenous spirituality community is that Ba, or the Babaylan of Ba, represents female, because it is 1, the first letter in the word babae, and 2, because of the shapes that are similar to the womb of a woman and her body, her figure, her womanly figure. And Ha is the first syllable in words such as hangin, or it's a symbol in the word ginhawa for breath. Hangin is air or wind, and ginhawa is breath. Lastly, lalake. The Babaylan for lalake is represented by a curving shape and a curving line coming down from the curving shape. And people like to say the Filipino indigenous spirituality community says it is a phallus, the shape of a phallus. And so therefore it represents males, and it's the first syllable in lalake, la. So ba, ha, la. If you were to take them together, ba is the first syllable, ha is the second syllable, and la is the last symbol. It is like we're looking at the female on the left side, the male on the right side, and the spirit in the middle, and there's this balance. And it's also been explained to me that ha is like the shape, the curving shape in the middle of yin and yang. So we've got sort of this yin yang energy, this balance between masculine, feminine, yin and yang, dynamic balance. Does anyone have any questions so far? I seem to have lost the chat. I'm going to find it. Does anyone have any questions? Okay. You can raise your hand in the chat if you need. All right. Or you can unmute yourself, but I'm going to go and proceed. With regards to the tree, if we were to look at it, it has 7 branches and 7 leaves. And for me, that is a sacred number. It also has 8 flowers and 8 fruits. So the flowers are represented by these stars that are around, that are in between the leaves, and I call them star flowers. And then the orbs are fruit. Then the discs underneath, or the ovals underneath the tree, between the branches and the roots, are baskets of seeds. Another detail is that there are the same thing, the stars and the orbs are between the roots. One symbolism or matching symbolism are the outer ring, whereby in the outermost concentric circle, we have the stars and the orbs there also. That represents the cosmos and cosmic forces, and it also represents sunlight and starlight. Those stars and orbs are the same stars and orbs in the innermost circle with the tree. They are the fruits and the flowers, and they're inside the roots of the tree. For me, that represents the macrocosm is in the microcosm, as within, so without. And also, you are in the universe and the universe is in you. The tree represents you. The tree of life represents you. Interestingly enough, a few years after I had finished the cover and Lenny had published her book, I was looking at the art on my wall, and I have since given that painting away to Tara. But I was looking at the art in my wall, and I was looking at the white tree at the center, and I suddenly realized that the white tree in the center was a white tree I had been dreaming about for many years. I used to dream of a white beach, white sanded beach, and white water, and everything was so pale that even the sky was white, and on the beach was a giant white tree, and people lived in it. And it was gigantic, and people looked small in it. And it used to be a recurring dream, and I stopped dreaming about it. But then I suddenly realized that the tree in the mandala was that white tree in my dreams. But that tree of life represents you. I like to tell people that the creation comes about because a feminine and masculine have become united, and the female out of her womb, within her womb is fertilization from the male energy, the activating force. And at the roots of the tree, that is what it represents. So if we look within the womb, or the roots of the tree, or the womb of the Babaylan Ba there, I like to draw dots that represented seeds that became fertilized. And then the tree grows from there. You grow from creation. And as you grow, your trunk and your branches grow strong, and you grow leaves. And if you're healthy, flowers come and you yield fruits. And later on, the fruits yield seeds. And for me, that is a creative process, that your works in life, your words, your thoughts, your choices are your creativity, things you put out in the world, and these are your flowers, fruits, and seeds. Seeds has a significant meaning for me. Just before I did the website for Babaylan.com and had meditated on the Babaylan and her roles as priestess, warrior, teacher, healer, visionary, I had been getting energy healing for a few years, and I had gone to a special place that I had always wanted to visit, and it was somewhere here in the United States. And I went to a place for a massage, or a Ayurvedic massage. And what surprised me was that the woman, I didn't expect this, the woman began to touch my body like a hilot in the Philippines. So when I was a teenager, a hilot had healed a prolapsed uterus I had gotten when I used to run track and field in high school. And one time when I was running track and field, I got it affected my uterus as a teenager, and it became prolapsed. And this helot came to the home, and she, without an operation, this helot massaged my stomach, and then she pushed my uterus back in place. The term in Ilonggo for a prolapsed uterus is na us ang matres, which sounds sort of funny. But that was the term, and she fixed it. And when I had gone into around 2001, 2000, this Ayurvedic healer began to touch me like a hilot right there in the same spot. And then she said something that surprised me. And she prepared me. At the beginning of the Ayurvedic session, she said, sometimes I begin to talk and tell you things during a healing session. I hope you don't mind. Do you think that's going to be okay with you? And at that time, I was so happy about being in this beautiful place that I was like, I was ready for anything. And so I said, yes. And in the middle of the session, after she had done the Ayurvedic healing and she began to touch me and probe me, and then she got to my stomach, and I was going, oh my gosh, she's touching me like a hilot. She suddenly said, your ancestors have left something for you here. And then my eyes got big. And I was so surprised. I didn't expect anything like that. I was like thinking to myself, my ancestors left something for me. I have no idea what that is. And then she said, but you're not ready. And at that moment, I was like, I'm not ready? What do you mean I'm not ready? at the end of the session, we talked about it. And she goes, I'm so sorry. I don't know what it means. And I'm sorry I might have talked too much. And I said, it's totally okay. But that is the first time ever someone spoke to me about ancestors. And when I came away from that healing session, I was determined to be ready for whatever my ancestors had placed inside my body for me. So it wasn't just DNA, it was something else, and I was determined to find it. And I truly, truly believe that it is the messages of the Babaylan and the ancestors in the babaylan.com website and in the Babaylan Mandala. By the way, thank you for bearing with me so far. And I've noticed in chat there's some questions. So Jillian has asked, where is the Ha and the Bahala tree? And I'm going to try to describe it because I don't, can you tell me if you see the cursor with the rectangle on the screen? All right, so if we look from left to right, the branches from left to right have an undulating curving shape from left to right, and that is the Ha shape. So I hope that helps, Jillian. So that's Ha. And Ricky has a question about the letter Ka inside the first concentric circle outside of the tree. So thank you, Ricky. Oh, you're very welcome, Jillian. Ricky, I will get to that next. Before I get to that, I wanted to talk again about the numbers. So 7 represents for me the 7 chakras. But when I was very, very young, I had been so impressed by someone telling me, I cannot remember, it was either in high school or college, when I heard that number 7 represented the perfection of man and number 8 represented God. And I had also learned that the Chinese people love the number 8 because it looked like infinity, and it represented abundance. And so number 7 and number 8 were significant numbers to me. And then when I was older, I learned about the 7 chakras. And some people believe that there are 8 chakras and up to 14 chakras that connect us to dimensions all around us that we can't see. But I won't go over those. All right. So I'm going to jump back and forth now, but I'm going to attend to Ricky's question now. So Ka. The letter Ka, or the Babaylan of Ka, and the syllable of Ka is represented by 2 lines, 2 curving lines that look like Ha, with a connecting line in between them. I'm going to see if I can find the letter Ka all by itself. And just show that on the screen. Let's see. Here we go. This is from my website, Babaylan Alive. I'll put it in chat. I have a website at Babaylan Alive because I became so fascinated by the deeper meanings of Babaylan as per the Filipino indigenous spirituality community, and also from Bing Veloso's work. So Ka is 2 curving lines with a line in between them. So they look like Ha. 2 Ha's with a line connecting them. That is Ka. And Ka, as per what I've learned from these people, is Ka means connection. And if we think about the various words that Ka is part of, the first thing that comes to my mind is kapwa and kapatid. Kapwa is self and other, or fellow man or fellow person, because there's no gender in Filipino pronouns. Kapwa. and kapatid. So kapwa, self another, kapatid, sibling. It is also in the first syllable in kasintahan, cousin, kababayan, or fellow countryman or countryman. And as Ricky mentioned, katipunan. And Katipunan used 3 Ks in their flag, and it was the KKK or the KKK. Let me see if I can find their flag. Katipunan flag. And I think KKK represents kilusan ng mga I forgot what it means. Kilusan movement and Katipunero. Kilusan Katipunero. This is the Katipunan flag. I don't see any samples, but this is what I can find. Flag. Oh, here it is. Okay. I'll share that right now. That's the ka. All right. Going back to why there is a ka in the circle. If we were to zoom in really close, I began to look at the K's together and I felt like they looked like leaping bodies. So I decided to turn them into men and women leaping around in a circle, dancing around the tree. Therefore, I call it Sayaw ng Pakikipagkapwa. Sayaw ng Pakikipagkapwa. If we look at it, it's men and women dancing around in a circle. Dance of sacred interconnection. Sayaw ng Pakikipagkapwa. And in between each man and woman, there is a spiraling ball of energy. This ring of dancing people, of kas, of the Pakikipagkapwa dance, represents creativity, that we as human beings must continue to play and create in the universe. That energy, we play with energy. We play in life. Life is energy. And you can have fun with it. If we're downloaded into bodies, there's an aspect of it of it's like coming into a game as a human being, and our souls are here to play in creation. And it's amazing what symbols can do if you talk about it, because then you bring out additional meanings. This was not my intention as I made it, but the Babaylan Mandala symbolism began to speak to me this way. Does anyone have any questions so far? Please go ahead and unmute yourself, and or if you want to, you can type in chat. While you're thinking about any possible questions, we'll have some questions in the back end of this discussion also. I didn't talk about the black and white flowers or black and white lotuses inside the mandala. but I don't know why I put them there in there. It was just sort of like this creative urge or digital artist urge. I just put them in there, and I felt so fascinated about black lotuses and white lotuses. And I know that it represents dark and light and yin and yang. You're welcome, Ricky. I was happy to explain Ka. There is an aspect about the Babaylan Mandala. If we were to soften our eyes, for me, the dark and light contrast of the dark gold on white and the black lotuses and the white lotuses. Lotus is an Eastern expression of perfection, the perfection of a soul in a human body. Right? It's sacred, a sacred symbol for both Buddhists and Hindus, and China, Asia. Hi, Dominique, I see your question. Dominique's question, some of you might see it in chat, and if you're on the phone, you can't see it. Dominique's question is, or statement is, statement question. I might have missed this, but is there a Filipino basis for the mandala that does not come from an Indian or Chinese lineage, or are we borrowing this tradition? I as an artist, I may have borrowed it because I was fascinated by artists. As a modern day artist, I have borrowed the mandala because I felt that the concentric circles, it was a feeling that the circular pattern was the most appropriate, because I actually played with the 4 elements. I began to play with the 4 elements when I was starting the design, and I put them in quadrants. So in a square shape or a grid shape. And then I began to feel, as I was creating the art, that it wasn't enough to contain all of the ideas and feelings I wanted to put in the piece, Dominique. And so in the process, it actually became a mandala. I wasn't thinking mandala when I created it. I was thinking circles. I felt that the concentric circles could hold all the symbols that I wanted to put into the image. And I hope that helps answer your question. What's really, really fascinating, though, about whether or not we've borrowed the mandala tradition as a Filipino from the Chinese or the Indians, what's really fascinating, I want to share this. I'm going to look it up really quick. There is a tradition in India called kolams. It's a South Asian tradition, kolam tradition. I want to share this. I have been very, very fascinated for a few years, ever since I started taking up yoga in the 1990s, of how in yoga, in Sanskrit, there are many words in there that sounded familiar to me. And I began to realize that the Filipino language and culture had been influenced by India and Sanskrit. So when I was learning Sanskrit, the first thing that occurred to me was the teacher was called the guru. And when I was 11 years old, I moved to the Philippines and I began to learn Ilonggo, Hiligaynon in the Visayas, and I began to learn Tagalog. And guru is the Tagalog word for teacher. It's the exact same word in Sanskrit. So that's one of the things I learned when I was taking up yoga in the 1990s. The next thing that I learned was mukha. Face in Sanskrit is also face in Tagalog. So since then I started to collect words that are the same. And here's the one that I wanted to share that is the same. And it's the word kolam. We have a word in Filipino that is the same as kolam. I'm going to find a column and share the image. Oh, no, 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 no. It's a video. I don't want a video. I want an image. Save image as. Okay. Okay, here's a column. This is a column. The column is a South Asian tradition whereby the woman draw intricate designs, concentric in form, at their entrances during their holidays. It is meant to draw in good luck into their household. And I'll read that in a wiki page. Let's see. So columns are symbols of auspiciousness. It is a Hindu belief that the geometrical patterns and designs applied with rice flour at the entrance to a home invites the goddess Lakshmi into the household and drives away the evil spirits. It is mostly a South Indian tradition practiced widely in Tamil Nadu. Oh, Letitia, I see your question. Perla, when you say you are changing the imagine on the shared screen, the mandala is still here, and I do not see whatever image you're hoping to share on the screen. Okay. All right, so that's changed by now, so we've got this image up. This is the column. Now, interestingly enough, there is a word in the Philippines that is the same as kolam. The root word is kolam, but the word is mangkukulam. And does anybody know what mangkukulam is? Yes, yes, Christine. Mangkukulam is actually more than a hilot, it is a magic person. And to many people, he or she is a fearful person. The mangkukulam works magic, and it's usually spells. It's really spells. And I don't think I've ever heard as a question from someone. The question is this person a shaman? They are like a shaman, but Filipinos see them as sorcerers. The other thing is the kolam usually works like a, what's a good word? What is the Jamaican magic? Voodoo. They usually do something similar to voodoo. They work spells that might hurt your enemies, like using dolls or fetishes that might hurt your enemies, make them sick. What's really interesting about kulam is that it comes from the word kolam. I don't remember how I made the connection or if I read it somewhere, but if we were to take the comparison between kolams in South India, whereby it brought good luck, and mangkukulam in the Philippines, whereby mostly people go there to work magic, it's quite similar. By the way, bye-bye means to spell. And the runes of the Scandinavians, writing was considered magic long ago when people were not educated. So to put a spell on someone is, interestingly enough, comes from using symbols to create energy. Isn't that interesting? I'm so fascinated by symbols and writing. So bye-bye means to spell. Any questions? So Rick, I do want to sort of bring that full circle, so to speak. It's interesting that kolam, this tradition of making kolams to bring in beautiful energy and protect households from bad energy, is created in circular patterns. And that kolam reached the Philippines in the form of creating rituals and spells. And the one we're most familiar with, or people are most familiar with, are the bad spells. But maybe people do go to mangkukulam to have good spells made. But I've never been to a mangkukulam. None of my family has been to mangkukulam. So I've never heard any folk stories about mangkukulam, good or bad. I've just heard hearsay that people would go to kulam, mangkukulam, to put a curse on their enemies. But kulams can also be for good, or kolam. So I hope that brings it full circle back to the circular pattern, that the practice of symbolism in old traditions still touches us today. Oh, that was Dominique's question. Sorry, Ricky. Your question was on Ka. Now, I do want to find out if anyone has any questions, because I wanted to share a couple more things before we go on to people sharing what they also see in the mandala, because symbols are so subjective. Everyone has a different interpretation, or gets different meanings, or might even have dreams with the tree, or experiences with the tree, and different associations. So the other two things I want to share, which have just recently come to me, is that there are that Psikolohiyang Pilipino, which is Filipino psychology. It's psychology that was developed in the Philippines in the 1970s by Virgilio Enriquez, Dr. Lugman, Alfredo Lugman. That's in the 1970s. And actually, Lenny Strobel and Lenny Mendoza Strobel and Lily Mendoza were both students of Virgilio Enriquez in Psikolohiyang Pilipino in the 1980s, I believe. And I went to, was it the 1970s or 1980s? I went to the same school but never took up Psikolohiyang Pilipino or Filipino psychology. I was in a different building in fine arts in 1980s. So I never learned about Psikolohiyang Pilipino until I met Lenny. But there are 3 Filipino values or characteristics that have made a deep impression on me. One of them is Pakikipagkapwa, obviously, which in Psikolohiyang Pilipino is described as shared identity. But I've felt that it means more of this feeling of connectedness, and I find it sacred. The next is, I began to realize that the more you experience and deepen your sense of connectedness, it is directly related to another Filipino value or trait, which is also a human value. And it's described in Psikolohiyang Pilipino as pakikiramdam. So some of you might already know that damdam is the root word for pakikiramdam, and damdam means feeling, to feel, to have a sense of. And pakikiramdam means shared knowing, I believe. Let me look that up really quick. I'm just speaking off the top of my head, but I wanted to share that. Pakikiramdam means, defined by Psikologyong Pilipino, means shared inner perception or sensitivity. What I have begun to realize is that synchronicity is part of pakikiramdam, where or shared dreams. If it's a coincidence that you've had the same dream, that is shared inner perception. Another might be if you come into a room and all of you feel that the room or the people in the room have a certain kind of energy, like maybe you can't trust them or they're immediately likable. That is pakikiramdam. Another part of pakikiramdam is inner visions and ideas that you end up having that other people seem to get at the same time. So I wanted to share that. What I feel is when I began this journey, my sense of pakikiramdam, shared inner perception, has become deeper. That I truly, truly feel this connection with my friends, with my close friends, with people who are creative, who seem to sense and be passionate about the same things as me, my family on a different level. And I wanted to share that I feel now that I see pakikiramdam in the circle. The last is the bahala na has become more and more significant for me. So when I was growing up, bahala na was explained to me as being this fatalistic attitude. But when I started reading the different wisdom traditions around the world, including Christianity and Buddhism, yoga, I would hear things that to me meant surrender to the divine or trusting God, and it became for me something that was way more than fatalistic or way more than to heck with you or to heck with it. And that's why I started another exercise, the Babaylan meditation. So if you go to babaylanmeditations.com, I've been collecting quotes and sayings that for me are the evolved way or the more positive, affirmative way of saying Babaylan. And that is described in Psikologyong Pilipino as tacit trust. Another way it's described is risk-taking. And when I read the book, Outrageous Openness, for me, outrageous openness is the Babaylan attitude. I want to jump back now to the mandala and just say that if you were to see the mandala as a three-dimensional image, and the three-dimensional concentric circles were moving and shifting, then within that three-dimensional aspect of the mandala is time and space. And therefore, past, present, and future are in the mandala. Our ancestors are in the mandala, and our descendants are in the mandala. In the now exists the past and the future also. So we see time as linear. We write in a linear format, but time may not be linear. It might be circular. It's just our human perception, and maybe because we're used to reading in linear fashions, we see time as linear. Someone's asking for the website of Babaylan meditations, and I'm trying to type it to everybody. Here it is. I wanted, when I was doing the FON conference, FON 2005 conference, Filipino Women's Network conference, and I was meditating on Pakikipagkapwa, I came up with a chart, and I want to share that with everybody. Let me see if I can find it. I feel like Pakikipagkapwa at that time was a service. It was a way, when we did service, when we were more aware of our connection, we yearned to do service for others, to give to others, to create things that would benefit other people's lives. Let me see if I can find that chart, because it sort of shows the, here it is. There it is. Okay. Let me find, here's the chart that I came up with when I was doing the FON 2005 conference. I think I heard a ding. Let me find the chat. Oh, there you go. You're welcome. All right. When I was working on the FON 2005 conference and I was meditating on the role of the Babaylan, or the Baylan. Baylan is the male word for spiritual leader of a Philippine village. I felt that it was imperative that the role was about service. And that's what I wanted to convey in the FON 2005 conference. That as for Filipino American women leaders, the whole role of a leadership was about service. So tao is human or person in Filipino, Tagalog, and it's in Ilonggo or Hiligaynon. In the Visayas, it's tao, which is spelled T-A-W-O, tao. So tao is the self, and he connects with others through service and pakikipagkapwa to family. When at a certain level, he only connects with family. The next level is community. The next is nation. The next is global, and the next is cosmic. When we say cosmic, also it's our awareness of the heavens, of distant stars, and that wonderment of, are there other souls or beings out there in the world? So it makes you think bigger. This whole sacred interconnection for me made me think bigger than just family or community or nation or global. It made me think cosmic. And then I was able to put cosmic energy into the Babaylan mandala. This for me now represents how we should see the mandala. We should see it in a three-dimensional way. It's spheres of connectedness in the mandala. The next, out of the first concentric circles I was speaking of, is now plant kingdom and animal kingdom. That's in the global level or your local level. There are kapwa also. Nature is our kapwa. In Filipino animistic beliefs, we believe there are diwata. Nature has spirits. So it's common for my mom or the people who live out in the farm. My mom said when she was a little girl, they'd go out to the farm and the children there would teach them, because she was city folk, they would teach them to talk to nature and say, tabi-tabi, which would mean, we're here, excuse me, would you make space for me to pass through? In Tagalog, they would say, tabi po, which means, could you move a little to the side so I can pass through this crowd? And in Ilonggo, they would say, tabi tabi, which means, please let me pass through without cursing me or giving me fever. And maybe some of you are familiar with that, stories from your family or firsthand. In the next level of three-dimensional way of looking at the mandala, I want everyone to be able to sense the multiple dimensions, the spiritual realms that are within the mandala. So if we were to read this, we're talking about we can connect to our loved ones and relations, not just in the present, but also in the past and the future. We are kapwa with our ancestors, and we are kapwa with our future descendants. The seeds that we leave by our works, by our words, by our thoughts, by our prayers or good intentions, those are also for our kapwa beyond space and time. I believe that Pakikipagkapwa means we are spiritual beings, that we're connected to not just the physical, but we're also created to spiritual realms. Here is a phrase here. It says, this is another belief and metaphorical seed, katutubong binhe, universal among all indigenous peoples of the world. The 7 generations belief of Native Americans, indigenous Americans, is that we are connected with the people in the past and the future. Our actions affect descendants 7 generations from now. So I believe truly that Philippine beliefs of kapwa and pakikipagkapwa strengthen our awareness that we are connected with the universe. This graphic is at my blog, which I've been publishing for a bit, bagongpinay.org. So thank you everyone for listening to my explanation. I'm sorry I had to talk so much to get to this point, but now I'd like to open up for dialogue and questions. If anyone wants to have input about what they might see in the tree or the lotus, the lilies, the lotuses, the fire, the cosmic symbols, or the sayanang pakikipagkapwa ka symbols, I'd love to hear from you. You can unmute yourself if you'd like to contribute or add.
Hello, this is Jillian from.
Hi, Jillian.
Hi, I forgot to mention where we're from. We're from here in Calgary, Alberta. Which is Oyade, which is in Stony Nakota, means elbow town. So my question is about the on the mandala on the bottom right, just I would say the next level after the cosmos on the outer level. There, I noticed that there's 2 circles that are overlapping each other. I don't know if you mentioned about this symbol, but it's different than the rest of the patterns.
Well, you are
layer.
very perceptive. You're very perceptive, Jillian.
I wondered about this for a while.
That is my signature.
Ah, okay. Okay, that makes sense.
So if you look at it, it's many things. So the first thing it is a Vesica Pisces. The next thing that it is if everyone's wondering what she's looking at, it's on the lower right-hand corner of the mandala, and it's very close. It's just above the black lotus. It's 2 circles with a curving line in it. For me, it represents Vesica Pisces, but it also represents spirit within 2 orbs. And it represents the letter P. It also represents, depending on how you might look at it, upside down or right side up, it might also represent B. So when I started the website for, okay, someone asked a really good question. Can I zoom in? And I forgot I could do that. There it is. It also has a B in it, a P in it for Bagong Pinay. Or P for Perla. BP for Bagong Pinay. And that is what it is, Jillian.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to add? Someone's called in and they're called call-in user number 1. There's no phone number. I want to also welcome some people who came in while we were talking and after introductions were over at the beginning of the call. Thank you for joining us. I do want to share a story really quick. And it's Letitia and I believe Maribel were there. I did the talk in Simi Valley in September at the Goddess Rising Conference. And this was a conference whereby Letitia got a group of us Filipinos to come in and attend, and they enjoyed our company a lot. And I did this talk there, and the talk was listed in the program as the Babaylan Mandalas and Sacred Interconnection. And I think I also used the word Pakikipagkapwa, comma, Sacred Interconnection. And a bunch of women came. They didn't know what Pakikipagkapwa was, but they were intrigued by the workshop. And one of the young women, she said it's okay to share her story. She was looking at the tree, the white tree. And when I was talking about how the tree sprung from darkness, so the roots are in the ground where it's dark, and we were talking about dark and light, how in our lives, when we're young, we might be taught that the dark is scary, or that darkness represents evil, or we might have heard of the so-called dark valley of the soul, and it sounds scary, but the dark part of our lives is important. And Letitia reminded me that lotus seeds grow in the dark mud underneath the pond. The darkness is where creation happens out there in the universe. And a woman named Tiffany wanted to share that she had seen this white tree in her dreams, that in her dream, she had been floating in a dark space, and suddenly, in this dark space, she had become a tree. And after she became the tree, she was born. And I asked her if she had seen this mandala before she had come to the talk, and she had not. And she was quite affected by seeing the white tree in the darkness in the center of the mandala. So we have 5 minutes left to the call. I want to thank you all again for letting me talk away and share the symbols of the Babaylan Mandala. I'm doing this talk again next month. I think around January 10 on a Wednesday night again. I'm also doing another talk that is free. It is called Sacred Interconnections and Creativity, or Creative Flow. I truly believe that Pakikipagkapwa, Sacred Interconnection, speaks to creativity, and that the more we are connected, our connectedness to all things deepens, our creativity flows even more. Quickly, the stars are as flowers around the tree, for me, also represent ideas. Diwa is idea in Filipino, and it means diwa, it means idea, Filipino. And interestingly enough, diwa also means diva, the same way diwata in Filipino, or animal spirit or nature spirit, is divata, or divine being in Sanskrit. Diva in Sanskrit means divine, and divata in Sanskrit means divine being. And it's interesting to know that diwa in Filipino for idea also means divine. Ideas are divine, and the flower, stars are divine things within ourselves. So you're very welcome, Dominique. Thank you for joining. If you have any more questions or things to add, please email me. You'll have my email in the Eventbrite emails that went out, but I'm also putting it in chat. I'd love to hear from you. Things that might have come up while I was talking, or things that might come up in the days to come or the months to come, please reach out to me. And you can check out all my blogs. Have a good evening, everyone.
Bye, love you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thanks, Perla.
You're so welcome.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays, yes. Bye.
Bye.
Christine! Christine, you stay, you stay. Maribel, stay. How are you, Christine? It's so great to see you.
Good. How are you? I'm busy these days.
Good. Yeah, you must be. Maribel, andyan ka pa.
Maribel, where are you?
Let's see. She has no unmute, unmute. Mute.
I cannot stay long because I'm working on something. I have a deadline. But I want to say hello.
Glad to see you.
You too.
So if you like, come here on the New Year.
Yeah. Let's have a party on New Year's.
A party.
Show me your place.
Okay, I'm gonna show you my place right now. Hold on. I'm gonna turn off all these other screens that are distracting me. These things, I'm not as nervous as I used to be with all these windows open all over. But here we go. Here we go. I will eject this. I'm gonna disconnect from the big screen muna, ha? Disconnect. So I can lift it. Let's see. Hold on, I have to change my screen setup so my mouse doesn't freeze. So where are you right now? Are you in California?
No, I'm taking care of my dad. He's in
Houston. You're in Houston.
Yeah, my dad just got admitted to the hospital this week.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, he just started dialysis today.
Oh, that's painful. My grandpa did that. My lolo did dialysis. My father-in-law, God bless his soul, he did dialysis too. Yeah. Well, prayers to your daddy. When did you get there, darling?
I got here, I can't remember, just like a couple of weeks ago, just like
Recently.
maybe 9 days ago, but I've been working. I started work like the day after I got in.
Like work in Houston or remote?
No, it's
work
actually
in
I
Peru?
copied you. I have a remote job.
Woo! That
I
is
copied
awesome.
you.
No, you didn't. Yeah, you didn't. The
copied
universe repeated. The universe repeated the gift.
I'm Gaya.
You're not
And then I
Gaia,
put
Gaia.
purple in my hair, also like you.
Oh, that I love. Yours
Gaia,
looks
Gaia,
even
Gaia.
nicer. Oh my God, yours looks beautiful.
Thank you. Except that it's, in certain lighting you can't see it, and then it fades also. But whatever.
It looks gorgeous. It looks so
Thank you.
gorgeous, and you're so photogenic. This is my room. Wala pang
Wow.
kama. Dito lang tayo sa sahig.
That's your kama.
Kasi 3 bedrooms na kami ngayon, hindi 2 bedrooms. So yung kama na ito, yung mattress na ito, bago ito. And I figured I'd get a bed after Christmas. I'm gonna put my money in sending my kids gifts. And then I didn't finish unpacking, Christine.
Yeah, I'm not
Got all
finished.
those boxes.
Yeah.
But this is my bedroom.
Wow. All yours.
Yeah. So tayo-tayo lang dito ha. Magbisita ka dito.
Yeah.
Tayo-tayo lang dito. So, your papa is home now. He's comfortable.
No, he's at the hospital.
Ah!
Yeah, he went in yesterday. I pick him up on Friday.
You mean he has to stay in? He has to be inpatient for the dialysis? That sounds different, huh?
It's different. It's different now.
Wow. He has to be monitored.
They put a tube here, and then after he does it, he has to go 3 times a week. And then after a while, he'll get a tube in his arm.
Oh. Do you think he can go on a vegan diet?
No. I'll never do it. I know. If only he would change the way he ate, but no.
Kawawa naman. I'll send you lots of prayers. These candles would be for your papa now.
Yeah. I need to be able to stay sane while I'm here.
Yeah.
He needs my help, but he's also a very difficult person. So
I can imagine.
he just barks at me all the time.
I totally understand. My mommy, she acts like a petulant child.
Yeah. And he has a dog. So the dog is a puppy. She's only 8 months old, and he is, yeah, he's a little out of control.
House training, right? That means that you can't fix a dog until they're a certain age, right?
No, he's fixed.
Okay, because when it's a
Yeah,
he.
you have to wait until they're like 3 months old. 3 to 6 months old before they can get fixed, but he's fixed.
He's got lots of energy. Basta lalaki. They're all the same though. They like to tear things up.
Yeah, he likes to tear everything up. He likes to nibble, and he likes to jump. And he doesn't realize how heavy he is. So
What kind of dog?
he looks kind of like a